Welcome. And now we have 45 minutes, so I'll talk. Maybe it will take a little bit longer. So if anyone of you is really hungry and wants to go, it's fine. And I hope you might stay a bit longer until the lunchtime. Okay, so about teamwork. All the stuff that I'm talking about is from last millennium. So it's nothing new. What I'm usually surprised is that not very many people know these really basic things about teamwork. So let's just start working. Okay, this is our company. Please have a look. I'm not going to talk it through. And then teamwork in 30 seconds. This is based on Hackman's findings. He was studying teamwork in Harvard for 30 years. So if we have a real team, we have a compelling direction and supportive organizational context. When the team puts effort in, they will find their ways. So it's really simple. And it's, of course, happening like this because evolution has built us to do teamwork. So now this was your lesson. We can now go and have some free time. And this is actually what people do, because this is somehow intuitive. People think that, okay, I already know it. And then if you actually look into group dynamics tradition and what is actually happening when a team has been working for a longer time, they become a mature team. So these are some of the things that happen when the team is mature. So please take a pair and have just 1.5 minute discussion about, is there anything striking here? So please take a pair and talk for a couple of minutes. So, welcome. These are qualities of a mature team that has been developed. Is there something that is kind of striking that takes your attention?
I think one's often like and not say out loud or not focus on the members endure frustration and feelings. That's an interesting one. People don't really ever focus on that. And even when you see frustration or some kind of feeling of anger, disappointment, dissatisfaction, betrayal, people often tend to just take a stance backwards and even like just avoid the situation, not like go into it and then reflect. Why do we feel this kind of disappointment? How do we deal with it?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. We are not going to go through all of this. I was just trying to give some impression that there is actually some value to have a team that develops their collaboration. And I would just like to point maybe one thing. So only when the team has been working together based on research at least 6 months, and not all teams develop, only then they are able to reflect itself as a team. Before this, people can individually say, okay, I screwed up, sorry. But only after the team has developed, it is able to say, we together screwed up. Just an example. All right, and just one thing about this still. Now, if you think that Agile movement often is thrusting into emergent leadership. Okay, now the managers are bad, let's remove them. And then some person in the team is coming up and being a perfect leader. And then things will happen beautifully. And if you think that scenario, and then you will end up in a team that works like this. Or would there be some benefit of educating people? Would it maybe make it more probable that we end here if the team members and potential leaders are educated about how team develops and how to do that? Maybe. Okay, then another motivational or background information about organizational realities. So this is a guy, William Ouchi, who in 1990s was interested about teamwork. And he was also interested about how Japanese companies are leading teams compared to US companies. And he went to organizations to study this question: what are the real observable control mechanisms in organizations? And he found three. First is what he called a market system. It's a deal. I give you money, you give me features. Welcome to our company. No, that's another. Yeah, so it's a deal, and important is that you can measure the input and output. If you are not able to measure the value, it doesn't work. And also, if either party is breaking the agreement, the deal, it doesn't work. So it's kind of vulnerable. Then another system is what he called a clan system. It's that, oh, well, we had some kind of problem. Guys say, oh, we'll do some stuff, and then something is coming out. And it actually works. It's the only mechanism that works when the task is ambiguous, unique, or interdependent. So thinking of software development. So it's not really controllable, but somehow, based on informal values, how we work together, there's actually something happening. So he called this clan control. And then there's a bureaucratic control, which means that there are written rules and processes, roles and responsibilities. The employment agreement is an example. You work here, we pay you money, and you do what he tells you to do. And this, coming back here to this clan system, so there's a long learning curve, and it's also vulnerable. So if organization is, let's say, adding too much bureaucracy, or there are some not right conditions, it also breaks down, it doesn't work. But bureaucracy is the winner. So whenever these mechanisms fails, the organization is thinking, okay, how shall we do this? Well, let's add bureaucracy. More processes, more defined instructions, and we expect that, okay, if we produce these documents, then things will work out. But bureaucratic system, it's only following the process. It's not able to measure or somehow guarantee the value. It's only able to guarantee that the process is followed. And now if we look at the real organizations, so the market system is dominant in the top, in the business. It's a deal, okay. We give money and you give us something. And then there are also some difficult questions there. New things, ambiguous things. So are we using bureaucratic mechanisms, roles and responsibilities? You take care of R&D, you take care of marketing. Or are we doing teamwork up there? In the middle, the bureaucracy is the dominant because contracts often fail. The system is complicated. You cannot make a deal. And it's too big for clan control. It doesn't work. So you need to have some bureaucracy, and it's dominant there. But then, how can we tackle the wicked problems? The transformation, organizational transformation, or whatever. The problems, failures. And then the clan system is obvious in the front line because we are creating new stuff in R&D. But we also need market control and bureaucracy to reduce the complexity and have some clarity of how we work. And now about teamwork. So I promise to tell something about these questions and how we can reduce the bureaucracy here so that we can do more what I would call value-adding work. But we know the answer. I mean, of course we know this. So, I mean, Scrum is ingenious because it's a handshake between market control, clan control, the creative work, and then back to market control, provided that the product backlog is somehow able to measure or estimate the value, and we can measure the value here. Minimal bureaucracy, no bureaucrats. So, yeah, I think to me this is the most ingenious thing about Scrum, or unique thing. All right, then going to this top management teamwork. This is Blackstone. The company Blackstone is buying other companies in the size of $1 billion, doubling their value in 5 years and selling. And interestingly, they do it consistently. So they do it consistently, and I hear often that agile transformations are far from consistent. Of course, they have slightly different problems, so I don't say that we are just stupid and they are wise, but still there is a bold example of actually changing an organization. And I heard an interesting lecture by this guy, Sandy Ogg, who participated in 7 projects and studied about 70, and wrote a book how the CEO is working in these projects. And they always put their own CEO on top because they need to trust to that person absolutely. And just one thing, the CEO is actually kind of checking 5 things all the time. I won't go through this, it would be too time consuming, but I just pick one thing. 1 out of these 5 things is what they are doing in the top management team. This is quite often happening in the management team, that we have the vice presidents and they have all their own initiatives, just private roles and responsibilities, division, so divide the work. No, this is not what you want to do. You want to have teamwork. Team goal, team responsibility, teamwork at the top when you want to transform a company in 5 years. All right, then back to Hackman's research. So for whole his career, he was interested about what kind of conditions create great collaboration and teamwork. He has written some books. There's an article about his latest ideas. And I was showing this 30 seconds earlier. Let's go a bit deeper. Let's select some of his conditions here. So this real team is bounded and stable. So people want to invest the time to actually improve the collaboration. The right people. The people are authorized to go and fix anything so that they can reach the goal. Quite often, surprisingly, teams are not authorized to do things. For example, fix the thing in the neighboring team's code, for example. And they need each other in order to reach the goal. Some of these conditions. Supportive organizational context. The first question is that, is it really a task for a team, or is it actually a task for a resource pool? So, first thing. Then, of course, information, education, resources, obvious, and rewarding. So, giving the goal to the team, rewarding a team so that it's a team goal. And then this goal is something that I'm really emphasizing in my presentation. So it needs to be challenging, optimally challenging, clear, then consequential. We did something, does it work? Is it useful? And a whole task, so not a component, but a feature. Very simply. So Hackman is saying that if we have this organizational enablers, then it's highly probable that there will be teamwork. If we don't have these conditions, it's probable that there's no teamwork. Okay, consequential feedback mechanism. Work with the customer, have continuous integration, and do retrospectives. In less context, quite obvious. How can we create these conditions? I gave a training, two-day training for internal coaches in a bank, and this was the burning question. I mean, they were really frustrated and anxious about, because how can we change this organization so that we have the conditions? And I have been struggling 15 years, 20 years to explain how to do this. And now I'm going to do it in a few bullets. So find others who think in a similar way. So use teamwork to enhance teamwork. Learn and communicate how the system really works. Now, this is a key. We will come back to this later. Find ways to change the conditions. So talk to management, get permission, then gradually do something, and coach the new setting. So, isn't it simple and clear? And I have made some explanation videos in our webpage, so you can also look at it. There's a lot of detail about this. Two tips from Hackman, which is interesting. The success, this beautiful, great performance is created 60% in pre-work, so creating the conditions, creating the organization and design. 30% when launching the team, so the team has kind of a good start. And only 10% underway when the team is already working. So this is Hackman's finding. Now, often it happens that the pre-work is badly done, launch is badly done. It means that the team itself needs to find out these things. So it can happen, it is putting more pressure on how the team is developing, how the group dynamics is developing. It is possible, but it's struggling. So it's not so certain that teamwork would happen. And then Hackman's another tip, that first give motivational coaching. Then there's a kind of, he's saying, mid-term crisis. I like to say a turning point crisis. And then the team is willing to get process coaching. So if you immediately start to explain the Scrum process, the team will say, oh, no, too early. We want to understand something else first. All right, then interaction. Another perspective into teamwork. People talk a lot. There's many kinds of interaction there. Why do we want to improve interaction? We want to get the work done. We want to improve the kind of productive collaboration. And we want to explicitly establish constructive behavioral norms, so that it's high quality interaction, it's increasing the trust and safety in the team and so on. And this is a notion from research in school environments, that culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated. So also, sorry? Yeah. Yes. It's good to keep in mind. So if you allow bad behavior in team, that has really an impact. So you need to intervene if that happens. And just my practical findings during 25 years, recommendation is that there's a simple and lightweight feedback process, which is just bringing up the topic, making a simple request, as kind of easily or simply as possible, only technically. Then, if there's a deeper problem, then use coaching dialogue to find out, okay, how can we actually get around and fix it? Or if there's some emotional stuff happening because of the facts, then you can use nonviolent communication. Is there someone here who is very familiar with nonviolent communication? Yeah, it's not so easy. We are very fluent in violent communication, not kind of by education. Okay, so this feedback technique goes like this. So you just sneezed, and I got some sprinkle here, so next time could you please just sneeze the other way? It was following this process. Oh, hey, Alex, who is not here. Yesterday you made a reservation for the restaurant. Thank you, it was really beautiful meal. I really enjoyed it. Examples of this process. So really kind of just explaining what happened kind of technically. And then this was kind of advised by Diana Larsen and Esther Tabi. And then I added this zero, think. Think first. Think first before you give feedback, because you don't want to spend your credit points to kind of non-important things. You really want to invest your social credit to something that is important. And then think about the consequences. Is it really kind of useful to give feedback? Does it improve, or is it, yeah, just think. And then also think how you are doing, when you are doing, and so on. Okay, then about just briefly explaining the coaching process. So we realized this problem here. So would you like to have 15 minutes coaching session where we would be thinking together? If he says yes, then we probably will collaborate better. Then, okay, when did you first time realize this? If the other one is taking by agreement the coaching role, is asking questions, and then clarifying, okay, I heard you say like this, did you mean this or this? And this kind of dialogue is helping to use more areas of the brain, having different perspectives, and in that way improving the thinking work. And every now and then there's a kind of, okay, we were talking this and this and this. Should we go that direction or that direction? I like this book. It's explaining this coaching dialogue and more about coaching. It's very well productized, easy read, interesting read. So I really recommend it.
Very popular in Finland.
Very popular in Finland. And I guess in Australia also, because this guy is from Australia. And someone here actually was connecting with me in LinkedIn, and it is somehow in his LinkedIn profile high up, this neuro leadership coaching, whatever. So not only in Finland. Some people elsewhere proved.
It was a joke about Finnish people being silent.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Okay, nonviolent communication. This guy created a tradition, started 1960s. It's really recommended to read a book, even if you don't start to practice it. It's an easy read and emotional, of course. Just some notions about NVC. It is really difficult to actually do in the way that is explained in that book, but in other ways I have found it very, very useful. So it's not science, it's strategy and skill, how to communicate, how to talk to yourself and to others. And philosophically, it is giving full autonomy and responsibility for everyone to take care of their own feelings and actions, decisions. So it's not that I'm responsible to make you feel good. It's not about that. And one idea is that there's connection before communication. If we have disagreement, argument, there's no connection. So if I'm first creating connection, then we are able to communicate. And that's why it is relevant also at work.
And hard to do remotely
Oh, yes,
because how humans connect.
yes. It's so easy to disconnect when you're remote in many ways, yes. And it's about giving empathy to yourself and to the other. And that is the key to creating the connection. And I said it's difficult, but even the intention has impact. And that is surprising when you try it out. And it's the model that I'll explain is very helpful when you are analyzing conflict. So in teams, there's feedback, there's disagreement, or outside the team, wherever. So when it's a good idea to think, and this model is very useful in thinking the emotional kind of side of the conflict. And stuff happens, it's causing feelings, which are just an indicator that my needs were not met or actually were positively met. Then when I realize my needs, I'm able to make a good request that is actually solving the situation. This is the kind of basic thinking model. And just an example, there are many ways, many lists of different needs. I will just pick up this one here. So if you have a conflict at work, there's no connection, there's a quick list. So is the other person, is he kind of thinking or experiencing that he is heard? So being heard is often the first one. So if you kind of learn a quick kind of saying that, could you please slow down a bit because I really want to hear you clearly what is behind your argument. So just attempt to hear the other one is kind of giving empathy and creating connection. And then autonomy is very often violated at work. Someone is explaining how you should work, is adding more work, whatever. It's very often threatened at work. And then recognition. If you give recognition for someone about what they have actually done, it's creating connection. Just a very small, quick list that is helpful. So that was a bit long explanation about the three things that I have found useful in improving interaction in teams. And it's a good idea to explain this to team, because if you happen to be the one who's often coaching, maybe resolving conflict, if the other people understand what you're trying to do, they are positive. If they don't know anything, they might just think that, okay, well, you are trying to manipulate me, this is some strange stuff. So explaining these things is a good idea. Then group dynamics, which is often mystified, and it's actually technically quite simple, because when there's a team in a room, there's yet another person in the room, sitting on the chair. That person is an imaginary person. Everyone in the team or group is imagining that there's yet another person. We often call that person the team. The team decides, the team helps, the team does something. And it's actually, it's a projection. So I am here, I'm imagining a person here, I'm projecting some qualities and ideas. Okay, the team is wise, the team is strong. And it's also power relation. Team is defining some norms, it's constraining my behavior in a certain way. And all this is my imagination. And this relationship is extremely powerful. If you think about more generally, people are ready to kill and get killed when they are really working in their team in some extreme conditions. Sorry?
esprit de corps. It's called esprit de corps
Yes, yes. So it is extremely powerful. And also regarding power relations, if you experience that you are in a power relations in the lower position, your brain is experiencing an inhibition, so it's actually reducing your ability to think. You want to obey. You don't think yourself. And it is just a reaction that is happening in your brain. And in groups, so this happens, and of course everyone is having this relation. And when the team is young, new, everyone is having their absolutely private imagination here, and having different expectations from the team, behaving differently because the team is expecting certain behavior from me. And when the team grows, it's more consistent what people expect from the team. And this is how group dynamics develop. And so there is probably more trust. It's more, people can more better expect how the team is behaving. All right. So there are some people who have studied this. This is Susan Whelan, who has written this book with her team. She's the only one who is actually explaining well how the team is developing in this famous team development sequence or life cycle. So Tuckman, how do you pronounce it? Tuckman, maybe. Coined his famous article, the sequence of forming, storming, norming, performing. And it's slightly misleading, not really useful and applicable. So what is actually really happening from this team dynamics perspective is that in the beginning, the team is a small child. And what happens is that team members, they start kind of a leadership competition. Someone is saying, okay, we first need to find out who we are. Someone else is saying, no, we first need to find out and clarify what is our goal. And this kind of goes on until the team, everyone agrees, okay, you are our wise leader. You will help us out of this confusion and anxiety. And this person becomes the chosen leader. And everyone else in the team becomes dependent on this great leader. And it's funny because in this kind of situation, people are asking stupid questions from this leader. It's not because they don't actually know where the toilet is, but because they want to express that you are the wise person who has all this wisdom. If you know this, it's funny to recognize this. So this person is then helping to clarify the basics. Who are we in? What is this team? What is the goal? How are we taking the first steps? Then what happens is that oh no, I was too fast. The teenage. The team becomes a teenager because the individuality and differences emerge after the first dependency. So people are forming small groups saying, okay, well, actually I don't agree what he's saying. So let's do things differently, and they are doing it differently, and we disagree. So, and this is a phase where whoever is the situational leader needs to solve this conflict so that it is creating productive, good, positive norms in the team. So this is actually the phase where the norms are defined based on solved conflicts. And conflict it's not a bad thing where people are angry, it's disagreement, actually. Okay, then becomes this phase of cohesion, where we have solved these internal issues of confusion, anxiety, and disagreement, and we are happy. We have this wonderful feeling of being together, we are the great team. All the trouble are there. They are stupid. They just don't know how to solve things. But we are good. And this is actually an unrealistic view of the world, because actually we are not yet so good. But anyway, this is very important because the team is gathering their courage to face the outer world. It's kind of working with a work-related anxiety. And then at some point, someone in the team is saying, oh, well, actually, maybe we should go back to work, and maybe it wasn't so perfect last time, and then they start to work. And then when the team is mature, the people can take leadership in different things. They can go outside the team and come back freely as is kind of required by the work and so on. So this is the place where all the good qualities that we were looking at in the beginning start kind of to emerge. And according to Susan Whelan, it takes minimum 6 months to be here. And 50% of the people have never experienced this.
I think it's probably much higher.
Who have not experienced.
Yeah, I observe that people who have been in a real team, rare.
It's rare. And Susan Whelan was studying something like 600 teams, and they were mostly in the academic circles, and it's possible that her kind of bar was not that high. So, but anyway, surprisingly few people have experienced this, and they are probably designing the organization, so there's some work for us. And well, if the team never develops, it's just people doing some collaboration, there's probably the performance doesn't grow, and it's more vulnerable if there's some kind of crisis or whatever, then it stops working. And then regarding Tuckman's phase approach, I would say that it's more like a question triggers a pattern. And now when you know how this pattern works, you can kind of support it. I mean, it's irrelevant if the team thinks, okay, now we are storming, now we are norming. That's, I mean, what do you do with that information? But if you know the pattern and you know the question that is behind there, then you can actually act. I'll come back to these dysfunctions in the open space session after lunch.
Can you go back just for a moment? I just want to read the list. By happy family, do you mean like no one's saying what's really going on with the real problems?
The happy family is the kind of the harmony, group harmony that is just going on and on and on. And the anxiety related to work is so high that the team never starts to work. They are pretending that we are good, problems are outside. And that is typical in the teams where there's no real feedback, like management teams. Typically, middle management teams, they can stay there for a long, long time. And interestingly, in trainings, people often talk a lot about that.
Is it like denial?
It's denial, yes. Okay, then about process coaching. Yet another perspective how you can help teams develop. So from day one, learn to share workload, competence, and leadership. So even when the team is not yet really mature and able to do this, but if you try it from the beginning, then it's creating good norms, it's creating a goal, a perfection goal of how we work. And having retrospectives in the list in the beginning, only after 6 months minimum, the team is able to reflect itself as a team. Still trying out retros early is helping to get there. Then from Basi's yesterday talk. So practice things, maximize time spent together. working together. Then Scrum, sprint planning. Whenever I go to organization, I'm meeting a team, I'm asking, okay, so are you actually doing it like this? No. So it's happening surprisingly rarely.
When it comes to planning, you mean team together shares the workload, or exactly?
Well, when I see some development teams, of course, I usually work in kind of bad organizations. And they have some sprint planning. I'm saying, do you actually split it into small tasks? Well, no, everyone takes their own kind of thing. Then I say, okay, would you like to hear how it's going in Scrum? Okay, you can explain. So, yeah, and this organization says, yes, we are doing Scrum. Okay, so I was very brief about this process coaching because, I mean, you are a specialist in that. So no need to go that very thoroughly here. And then I said that teamwork is applicable more widely, not only these traditional teams, but also communities, projects, meetings, departments. And for Hackman's conditions apply. If some bigger organization, a community, doesn't have those conditions, it's highly probable that it's not productive. Feedback mechanisms, they apply also big teams, projects, whatever. Interaction skills, how they help collaboration, applies. Individual members are projecting things, even in big organizations, they are projecting things to leaders and departments, whatever. Life cycle dynamics apply. Initial confusion, working with differences, having some harmony feelings. The thing is that when the team is ideally sized, maybe 5 people, then this is really strong. The bigger team, the more seldom they meet, whatever, then the kind of teamwork is mild in those cases. But still trying to improve teamwork is helping even this other kind of organizations. Then, okay, so actually it's already 1:15.
Yeah, let's continue.
But I will continue, you choose. Case cowboy coaches. You know the case. Yes, I think. Yeah. So it might happen that an organization wants to make an agile transformation, they create a blueprint somehow, then they hire external coaches who do with the teams whatever. Because the blueprint actually doesn't work, and then they don't really, I mean, these coaches do their best, but they have their individual ideas, different backgrounds, whatever. So they are like cowboys doing their own stuff.
Herding their teams.
Sorry?
Herding the teams.
Herding their teams, yes. And so now I'm comparing launching the coaching community and thinking this as a team. So according to Hackman, we have these conditions, and the community is also a real team. So in order that they actually get something done in the organization, organizationally, they need to collaborate. So the right people. So now I'm against the idea that these coaches would be the external people who are specialists in Agile. In my world, this coaching community is the people in the organization who are really running the show, really. The senior developers, the people who are running the show in the organization. So senior developers, maybe project managers somewhere, architects who know how the system works, who are influential. So those people need to be educated about the new system, and if they are not on board, well, the system doesn't change. They can kind of sabotage the change.
I would say it's also internal, external mix of people.
It's internal, external, yes. We need some really experienced externals working there, influencing, bringing in new thinking. And then that supporting organizational context, I mean, that is left as homework. But compelling direction, challengingly a consequential whole task. And now this is the key thing. Learn and communicate how the system really works. And because these are cross-role, cross-organization, they know how it actually works in detail at different paces. When they come together, they can understand, okay, this is how it works. They can also speculate how it would work differently, because they know the history, background, details, and so on. And then, because they are coming from different parts of the organization, doing this thinking work, design work, when they go back, immediately when someone is asking them, okay, but why are we doing this and how should we do it otherwise, they can explain. So the new thinking, new knowledge is available immediately. So this is how it works. And now let's make a counter example. Let's forget this learning. Let's skip learning. Then there's no real need to collaborate. And the coaching community is becoming a bragging meeting, where these differently thinking cowboys come together and say, oh, I did that, it's better than you, and so on. This is highly probable. In some cases, of course, the coaching community might kind of gather themselves and also do some positive learning, but it's highly probable that they really don't have any external goal that would require collaboration. So, and because they don't have this knowledge, someone else will be doing the blueprint. It's McKinsey or internal ivory tower. And then the right people, they have better things to do. And then, of course, the coaching is whatever. So, I mean, my advice is do the learning. That's the key. All right. Last small thing. When you start a team, okay, remember Hackman's advice about preparation and launch, and respect the group dynamics in the beginning. This is something that people really don't know, usually. Did you know this beforehand, that the team is like a small baby and you need to kind of actually lead it to help it to grow? And then this Hackman's tip about motivational coaching, and then it's a good idea to educate everyone. All right, so thank you for your time. It took a bit longer than I thought, but...
Thank you, Harry. I thought that was packed with areas of information, with bodies of knowledge behind it, which are vast.
They are vast, yeah.
And all very consequential and important. It was very interesting how you...
Yes, well, it's 25 years condensed here.
One of the things that struck me, I'd never thought about it this way, when you introduced Oichi's market system, your
Yes.
and plan system, is I often see in the senior management, in their market system, they'll have some kind of measurement and reward system.
Yes.
Management by
Yes.
or whatever, connected to the market system.
Yes.
And then they assume that that measurement and reward system is what you cascade all the way down through the system.
Yes.
And now I can frame it better how it's a paradigm mistake.
Yes.
Because when you move to the bureaucratic system or the clan system, it's, breaks, it's
Yes.
the wrong model. Because it's not a market system.
It's not, yes. And it's impossible to measure the bureaucratic outcome out of the bureaucratic system or the value of it.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what they try to measure, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And so then they transform it into value equals delivering a document.
Yes, yes. Like someone referred it today. Yeah, okay. So now, if you can bear the ad, we do training both about just teamwork, or then 2 days or 4 days, which is teamwork plus how you improve the organization, how you initiate people to this coaching community. So this nice pictures from that kind of training. And I have put this teamwork as supporting training in less website. So you're welcome. Okay, thank you.